Hey everybody, welcome to A Course in Miracles Applied. Today's topic is part of a quote from chapter 4, section 3, paragraph 8, sentence 2. I'm going to repeat that throughout the segment. And the part of the quote is, "For we must hide nothing from each other." And with we, Jesus means us and Jesus. We must hide nothing from each other, between us and Jesus. This is, I think, the core of our relationship to Jesus and the Holy Spirit. I think we're approaching the very center of the correction process for the ego with this statement. Everything we have discussed until now, in all the segments we've done, leads to this one. It is the heart of forgiveness, and it opens the door to our return to the home that we have never left in truth. And the whole quote is, so that is from page 62 in the text, paragraph 8, page 62, paragraph 8, sentence 1 and 2. It says, "Watch carefully and see what it is you are really asking for. Be very honest with yourself in this, for we must hide nothing from each other." Let's clarify the first sentence. Watch carefully and see what it is you're really asking for. When Jesus asks us to watch carefully, right? He gives us the key to undoing the whole ego thought system. The ego's existence very much depends on us not knowing what we're doing, right? On us not knowing what the ego's motives are. That's why the Course spent so much time in uncovering the ego's motives. The ego's biggest fear, as we have discussed before, is for us to get back to that choice point in our mind from which we can make a decision against it. And there are several ways of accomplishing this task. And one of them, probably the biggest one of them, is us not knowing that we even have an ego to begin with, right? So hiding is one of the biggest devices the ego uses to keep us where we are. The principle of hiding, the principle of secrecy, of covering up. Let's look at this chart. Forget this part for now. We'll start where we are right now. So the decision maker, I'm gonna have my little scratchy tool. The decision maker over here is us having gone through layers upon layers upon layers of defenses, ending up down here in this world, in this body. Our prevalent state of mind is fear. The Course says that I'm paraphrasing, but all the emotions of the world funnel into one emotion, and that is fear. It says the course says you have but two emotions, love and fear. One you made and the other was given you. So we are here in the world, in this body, and our main emotion and our main thought that comes in many, many thousands of different forms of camouflaged emotions, all are fear, right? The number one emotion of this world is fear. We are here in this world, we are perceiving guilt on the outside. We are a victim of the world because our state of mind is 100% dependent on what's going on in the world. There is a cause and effect, a false cause and effect relationship we have with the world because we listen to the ego, and that cause and effect relationship means the world is the cause and our state of mind is the direct effect, right? That's where we are right now at this very moment. We are completely mindless because we can't even make a decision what our state of mind is. The world dictates how we feel. If somebody says something wrong, does something wrong, or doesn't say something that we want to hear, or says something we don't want to hear, right? If the economy goes downhill, if our health goes downhill, if we get fired from a job, if our partner leaves us, if we get evicted from our apartment, or even smaller things, right? Somebody leaves their dirty dishes in the sink, right? I'm not naming any names in my family at all. You know, there's a way to stack a dishwasher, right? So we are here as the decision maker, completely forgotten where we came from, right? We're in this world, in this body, as a victim of the world, and perceiving guilt on the outside and in a constant state of fear. That is where we are. And the Course now takes this state of mind that we're in, right? And opens this state of mind up. Almost like peeling an onion, right? Layer upon layer upon layer. It removes those layers of defenses we have. And we have those defenses because we listened to the ego, right? And the ego has its own agenda to keep us in this state right here. So I can't do it right now, but if you would imagine, let me see if I can get this in perspective here. If you would imagine, I was very hungry before. If you imagine this is our state of mind right here, right? We are in the world, a victim of circumstances. Nothing else exists. And the Course, basically what it does is move us up the ladder, right? Step by step, we're going through those layers upon layers back to where we came from. So in this diagram and in our journey home, hiding plays a very big role. That's why Jesus says we must hide nothing from each other. Right? Jesus doesn't hide anything from us. Right? His love is fully on the table, 100% all the time. Right? We are the ones hiding from him, and we're not only hiding from him, we're hiding something from him. And here's what that something is that we're hiding from him. So each layer hides another layer, hides another layer, hides another layer. So in order to uncover, in order to get to this, go back up the ladder, separation led us down, as Jesus says, right? We're down here and we have to retrace our steps up the ladder. So our being in the world, in a body, as the victim of the world, in a mindless state, right? This state of mind, as the victim of the world, with perception of guilt on the outside, hides our attack through projection. We are not aware that we are attacking the world, ourselves, and everybody in it through projection. So this state of mind we're in right now is a veil covering our attack upon the world. That will be the first step to realize that whenever we see guilt outside, whenever we're angry at somebody, we must have attacked this person, right? Anger is an attack. Upset is an attack. Whenever we make the outside world responsible for our state of mind, we must have attacked first. Whether that's the weather, a war, getting poison ivy, toothache. Whenever we make the world responsible for how we feel, we must have attacked first. But we're hiding this, right? We are hiding the attack under our feeling of the victim, of being the victim. Our being the victim hides the fact that we attacked first. Our attack on the world hides our guilt. Right? We're hiding our guilt by projecting it outward. We feel guilty and we hide this guilt by pushing it to the outside. And we're attacking others to make others feel guilty or make others the responsible ones so we don't have to be the responsible ones. And we hide that attack by being the victim. The part that things or stuff is being done to. Right? So our victimization hides the attack on the world. The attack on the world hides our own belief in guilt. Our own belief in guilt hides the belief in sin. Right? So one step hides the other. And all of this together as a layered defense hides from our awareness the place of decision making. So if we recap what the ego's goal is for us never to reach this part. Never to question the thought of separation. Right? the place of decision making, the decision maker has left because we believed we are sinful. Guilt was the natural consequence of that. We pushed this guilt down into the unconscious, and we attacked the world and our body to get rid of that guilt. And now we are the victim of the world, completely forgotten all of this, especially that we are not here, right? The decision maker, we as the decision maker think we are in a body in the world, but we're not. We're just in the mind, went down those stairs into the basement, right? And we forgot each step that we took that led us down there, according to the ego's plan. And now we are here, seemingly, right? Having forgotten that we're actually up here. And that's why Jesus says, we must hide nothing from each other. So, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. The tiny mad idea is like chalkboard, right? That tiny mad idea is the thought of separation. The place where we look at this thought of separation is in the mind, the place of decision making. We could decide for the Holy Spirit in this place. We cannot decide for the Holy Spirit down here. We have lost the ability to decide. The decision happens up here. As long as the decision maker is down here, we cannot make a decision. That's why you might have noticed, and I notice that every day, that why don't we decide for the Holy Spirit? Why don't we decide to be happy or joyful, right? If we're here, the moment we're the victim of the world, we cannot decide for Jesus. That is the very purpose of this thought system, is for us to be down there where we cannot make a decision. We have to go back up those steps, right? We have to go through our attack to our own guilt, look at that is caused by our belief in sin, question that, and from there we can go to that place. And from there we can make a decision for the Holy Spirit. So when Jesus says we must hide nothing from each other, he means that, first of all, very personal. It's a very personal message. It's not an abstract concept that the Course just throws out, right? He invites us, and I think that's the core of this segment. He invites us to tell him everything. Not just the good stuff, right? Not just our successes. He doesn't care about that at all. In one sense, if the no is the ego and the yes is the Holy Spirit, he does not need our yeses. He does not need our promise, oh, I love you, right? He doesn't need our I love yous. He needs our hatred. Because the hatred is the attack. And that is what we're hiding from him. Because we're afraid he's going to punish us because we feel so sinful. That's what the ego told us. But he says, be very honest with yourself in this. Now, here's the issue that we have. We think we're honest, right? We think we're honest students of this course, working it, doing what it tells us to do. And then there are sentences, for example, that say, what is not love is murder, right? So anything that isn't love is murder. But this murder we're not aware of. We are here, so anything that isn't love is murder, which means is an attack here, right? But we're not aware of that attack. We are only aware that we are a victim, right? We're perceiving guilt on the outside. We're perceiving the responsibility for their separation on the outside. We are not aware of our own attack most of the time. We're not aware that the moment we are fearful, we must have projected guilt outward. There's no other cause for fear other than projected guilt, which means attack, which means without attack, there would not be fear, which means whenever we're afraid, we must have attacked. So the fear hides the attack. And Jesus says, okay, fine, tell me about the fear, right? Tell me what you're afraid of. That's very easy, right? We can tell Jesus, I'm afraid of this job interview tomorrow. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of my husband. I'm afraid of my wife. I'm afraid of my children. I'm afraid of world war. I'm afraid of somebody else becoming president. I'm afraid of virus breaking out. I'm afraid of earthquakes, wildfires, the economy collapsing, my neighbor shooting me, whatever the fear is, right? Jesus says, that's fine. Tell me about your fears. That is a good start. But we have to realize that whatever is on the surface is really just that. It is the surface. This is the surface. This is where we start, right? We start at this rung of the ladder where we tell Jesus about what we're afraid of. We're telling Jesus about how we feel about the world. We feel like a victim. We feel all that stuff. That's fine, right? That's great. That opens the door. But like any good coach will tell you, that's fine, but I want more. Give me 10 more. Give me 10 more push-ups, right? Give me 5 more laps around the arena, right? That is not enough. To tell Jesus about our fears, about our judgments of others, that's a different story. But of our, how we feel about the world and all that stuff, that's fine. That's a good start. When he says, be very honest with yourself in this, for we must hide nothing from each other. He says, okay, this is great, but let's go one step further deep, one step deeper inside. This is pretty much on the outside. We're going one step below that. It's getting a little darker, right? Jesus says, tell me about your attack. Tell me about your attack on others. Tell me about your judgment of others. Tell me about what you know, what you're aware of your judgments of others, right? That usually opens a whole door to a massive undertaking, right? Because we're already now in a realm that fills a whole day, right? If we're truly honest, there's no minute during the day when we do not judge. And Jesus says, please bring all this to me, right? For we must hide nothing from each other means tell me about your obvious attacks. And then we say, okay, so this one guy cut me off in a parking lot and I got angry. That's great, right? Things like that. So we take the second, we move the page of our diary to Jesus and we say, I attacked this guy or this woman in the register, at the register in the supermarket, because she was just so slow, I couldn't stand it. Or I hated my coworker today because she lost the copies that I made. Or whatever it is, the attack on another that is obvious, right? Those ones that are obvious to us. That will be the next layer, right? But that's not enough. That doesn't mean we have to do it today. But what Jesus really wants is the deep stuff. When we realize that if we have a problem with a person and we think, oh, if this person would be dead, that would actually be great, because then I wouldn't have that problem anymore. Right? Or we fantasize about people moving out, stuff like that. Or if we would have a different partner, that all would be different. Jesus tells us that we want to lead our brother to a precipice and throw him over the edge into the abyss. And mostly we want to do that with people we love, seemingly, right? And he says, be very honest with yourself in this, for we must hide nothing from each other. So the further we go with the course, the more courage we have to dig deeper into those things where we realize, whoa, I don't mean anybody well, or I hate everybody in this classroom, right? Or I can't stand any of the people in my course group or at my work. That's what he wants, right? He does not want us to say, I love everybody in this course group. Ken always said, semi-jokingly, that the only reason we are ever in a course group is to learn how to forgive. And learning how to forgive means to look at, first, that we believe we're victimized, and second, that we're attacking everybody. We're just not aware of it, right? We feel like the victim that hides the attack. We are not aware of it. And Jesus says, okay, take off the covers, right? Unlock that door. Let's both look into that closet and take out those more heavy-duty weapons that you hold, right? What is not love is murder, he says. Show me. Tell me about it. Tell me all your thoughts that you hold against your brother. Hide nothing from me. That's what he wants us to do. So, and the course is filled and filled and filled with quotes like that. I'm going to give you just a couple. And Jesus basically takes, it's either him or the Holy Spirit. He kind of switches it up a little bit. Okay, so the first one is on page 193 in the text. Chapter 11, Introduction, God or the Ego. Paragraph 3. We're going to start at sentence 4. So page 193, sentence 4, it says, hold on, let me just pull this up here. says, the more you approach the center of his thought system, the Holy Spirit's, the clearer the light becomes. The closer you come to the foundation of the ego's thought system, the darker and more obscure it gets, right? The further we go in here, because here we could be theoretically, if we're not paying attention, we could be relatively happy. Happy with having the guilt placed successfully, quote unquote, to the outside. We can live a life in quiet desperation that seems happy at times, right? We have grandchildren, we have some cars, we have an apartment in Florida, however we pull our world together, this is the place where we are most convinced that we're happy as a victim of the world. And then Jesus says, the closer you come to the foundation of the ego's thought system, the darker and more obscure the way is. If we could get through the attack, to the actual guilt, to the actual belief in sin, is a very, very dark place, right? This is no fun stuff. We can smile at it. We can't smile at it, but Jesus can smile at it. So we hold his hand and we go into the cave, right? Yet even the little spark in your mind is enough to lighten it. Bring this light fearlessly with you and bravely hold it up to the foundation of the ego's thought system. The foundation of the ego's thought system is the murder of God, right? We believe we killed God. We don't want to go anywhere near that thought. That's why we're futzing around down here. Maybe we're going to the attack, but getting to our own guilt is already a step that needs a lot of preparation. We can't just do it, right? It needs a lot of preparation to look at our own guilt, because whatever we think is guilt is just the shadow of a shadow. That's not the real guilt, right? Be willing to judge it with perfect honesty. Open the dark cornerstone of terror on which it rests and bring it out into the light. There you will see that it rested on meaninglessness and that everything of which you have been afraid was based on nothing. But we have to look, we have to uncover those rungs of the ladder, right? That lead us ever deeper into the basement of our own mind, of the ego, towards the ego's foundation, which is the belief in sin, right? Bring this light fearlessly with you and bravely hold it up to the foundation of the ego's thought system. That's what he says when he says we must hide nothing from each other. Tell me about it. Of those dark secrets that you think block the light, right? If you give them to me, if you tell me about them, you will in time realize that they cannot block the light. But if you don't tell me them, then you will stay in the belief that they do block the light and you will not be happy, right? Makes sense. Second quote is on page 219 in the text. It is in the Way to Remember God section in chapter 12, page 219, paragraph 5, sentence 2. It says, take off the covers and look at what you're afraid of. And what we're afraid of is to get back to this guilt. We think we're afraid of the outside world, but that is a direct cause and effect switch that we do with the ego, where we think the fear is on the outside, but we're actually afraid to get in touch with the guilt on the inside, because the guilt on the inside marks us as the one who killed God, right? It's fun stuff. Aren't you happy you picked up the course and found me on YouTube? It's all good. Jesus says, look at this with me, right? It's the only way out, is to look at it with me. So he says, take off the covers and look at what you're afraid of. Only the anticipation will frighten you, for the reality of nothingness cannot be frightening, right? Guilt is an illusion, because the sin is an illusion, because the thought of separation had no effect at all. That's why guilt is an illusion. But while we're down here in the world, as a victim of the world, we believe guilt is real. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to attack our brother. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hiding in the world, right? So whenever we believe we're in the world, that also means we must believe we're guilty, right? But only, as Jesus says, only the anticipation will frighten you. For the reality of nothingness cannot be frightening. The reality of nothingness, guilt is nothing. Guilt is only something if we don't look. If we don't look at our murderous thoughts, there's something. The moment we look at them with Jesus, they disappear. Not the moment, but in time, when we learn to look at them with Jesus, they will disappear. But they will not disappear if we don't look at them. Let us not delay this, for your dream of hatred will not leave you without help, and help is here. Our dream of hatred, the dream of guilt, the dream of attack, which is hatred, the dream of being the victim of the world, right, will not leave us without help, and help is here. Jesus is here. He says, right, in many, many words over and over, be very honest with yourself in this, for we must hide nothing from each other. Tell me everything, especially the things you don't want to tell me. Those hidden motives that we have with others, those little manipulations, the small manipulations of others that are just under our radar, but we know they're there, especially when we start working with the course for real. We will notice those things, right? That we make nice with somebody to get something, right? That we're not concerned about the other person, that we're concerned with us, but we're cloaking it in something that we give somebody, for example, right? We'll learn over time how sneaky we are, but the sneakiness comes from a guilt that is not real. But for us to get to that point, we must go through this with Jesus and look at it again. Learn to be quiet in the midst of turmoil, for quietness is the end of strife, and this is the journey to peace. Learn to be quiet in the midst of turmoil means there are times with the course, and I speak from my own experience, where it gets very, very dark, right? We think we will never learn this course. We'll never make it. It's too much, it's too big. My judgment is too all-encompassing. I'm uncovering hatred in myself, or thoughts of vengeance, or thoughts of manipulating others that are frightening, right? And that is what Jesus says. Bring it to me. Tell me about it. Tell me everything, he says. Look straight at every image that rises to delay you, for the goal is inevitable because it is eternal. The goal of love is but your right, and it belongs to you despite your dreams of all of this, right? Love belongs to us. But we cannot realize or become aware of the love that belongs to us if we hide it. We're hiding love right now under this layer of attack, a layer of guilt, a massive layer of the belief in sin. That's what we're hiding the love under, right? And our whole world is a smokescreen where we are the face of innocence, as the Course calls it, right? The face of innocence, that is the innocent victim of the world, that hides the fact that we are the attacker, That hides the fact that we feel guilty. That hides the belief in sin. And that hides the love that is there. And then he says something that is one of my favorite lines in the course. It says, "A little while and you will see me. For I am not hidden because you are hiding." A little while and you will see me, for I am not hidden because you are hiding. We are hiding from Jesus by hiding our ego thought system from him. And he says, a little while longer, right? Just do this a little while longer. Look at the ego a little while longer, and you will see me in everybody. You won't see your own guilt anymore in your brother. You will see me, right? You will see the Christ in everybody. That is the promise he makes to us when he says, be very honest with yourself. We must hide nothing from each other. That's his promise. And he says, I will awaken you as surely as I awakened myself, for I awoke for you. If Jesus awoke for us, all this is gone, right? But if we only take this sentence and say, I awakened myself, for I awoke for you, and we feel this pretty nice, beautiful sentiment of Jesus that tells us, he awoke for us, which is very loving. 2 minutes later, we will be back here, right? That's why we need to have both sides. We need to have those lines that say what he just says, right? I will awaken you as surely as I awakened myself, for I awoke for you, right? We need that line, but we also need the line where he explains to us in excruciating detail that we want to throw our brother over the precipice, right? We need both. We need the light to look at the darkness. We need Jesus to look at the ego. We cannot look at the ego alone, because looking at the ego alone is not looking at the ego. The ego is too smart, right? He wants to survive. It's not going to make it easy. And we're 100% identified with it. So we need Jesus. We need to look at the ego with Jesus by our side. And then there's another one on page 220, paragraph 9, sentence 5. So page 220, paragraph 9, sentence 5. When we have overcome fear, not by hiding it, not by minimizing it, and not by denying its full import in any way, not by denying its full import in any way, this is what you will really see. You cannot lay aside the obstacles to real vision without looking upon them, for to lay aside means to judge against. You will look, if you will look, the Holy Spirit will judge, and he will judge truly. He cannot shine away what you keep hidden, for you have not offered it to him, and he cannot take it from you. Right? Again, making it clear that we have to look at all of this. Right? Look at this layer that will reveal this layer, that will reveal this layer, will reveal this layer, and then we're at the choice point and we can go back home. Then on page 243, paragraph 6, sentence 1, it says, 243, paragraph 6, sentence 1, you must look upon your illusions and not keep them hidden, because they do not rest on their own foundation. The ego's foundation is the belief in sin. But this is not a foundation because it doesn't exist. But we have to look at the foundation and look at the sin to realize it doesn't exist, right? We cannot just say now, oh, sin doesn't exist, right? The ego loves that. Oh, there's no guilt. Why am I even doing this? There is no guilt, right? The Course says there's no guilt, so I don't have to do anything. But in order to believe that we're not guilty, we have to first look at how much we believe in guilt, how much it encompasses our whole mind. And we can see that when we look at how many hours per day we attack somebody else, even if it's the smallest little, I don't want to call this person, or I don't want to think about this person, or something like that, right? And that hides us being a victim of the world. So we have to go through this to look at this, the dark foundation of the ego. One more. This is this is page 288. Chapter 14, page 288, paragraph 6. The Holy Spirit asks of you but this: bring to him every secret you have locked away from him. That's the only thing he asks for. He doesn't ask us to love God or Jesus or each other. The Course does not ask us to love each other. How can we possibly love each other when we're here? We are so far removed from love. Jesus tells us, love your brother. It's like a coach. It says, love your brother. Right? That's the end goal. But that's not the process. He gives us the contrast. He says, if you love your brother, you'll be happy, right? We're not happy, that means we don't love our brother. So that's where we start. We're down here. My brother upstairs has high heels on at 2 o'clock in the morning and walks around like a lunatic. How can I possibly love him or her as I'm the victim of the world, right? And Jesus, love your brother. And we think, okay, I love my brother, okay, fine. Right? That's not what he means. Right? Ultimately, we will love him, but to get to that point where we love him, he wants us to tell him, Jesus, how much we hate that person above us that walks around at 2 o'clock in the morning. And really tell Jesus about how much we hate that person. That's what he wants. Because that's the only way we can get to the next part, which is our own guilt. That we feel so terribly, terribly guilty to have done something that we don't even know about, which stems from our belief in sin, which is a defense against the love that is in our mind. And here we love our brother truly, because we're one and the same. So bring him every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request he enters gladly. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. What we hide from Jesus, he cannot look upon. It will obscure our vision and it will block the way until we tell him about it, until we look at it with him, right? But what you hide, he cannot look upon. The vision of Christ is not for him alone, but for him with you. Look upon them with him. The vision of Christ is not for him alone, but for him with you. Bring therefore all your dark and secret thoughts to him and look upon them with him. Bring therefore all your dark and secret thoughts to him and look upon them with him. He holds the light, you hold the darkness. They cannot coexist when both of you look together on them. His judgment must prevail, and he will give it to you as you join your perception to his. And that's the process, right? Bring all your dark and secret thoughts to him and look upon them with him. It is not enough to bring him the thoughts that are not secret, right? The thoughts that are open. The first step is to bring those thoughts that we know about. And when we bring those thoughts that we know about, right? Behind that are the thoughts we don't know about. Those are the attack thoughts. Behind the victimized thoughts are the attack thoughts. And when we bring those to him, behind those are the thoughts of our own guilt. That's when it gets dark. And behind that is that thought that we killed God. That is the darkest cornerstone, right? The fourth obstacle to peace, the fear of God because we think we killed him. And behind that is the love. Or behind that, in our case, we reach the place of decision making, but we can make a decision from here freely, right? Because there's no more guilt, there's no more sin, and we are looking at the thought of separation without all of this, right? We look at it without emotion. We just see the thought of separation for what it is, namely nothing. And then we're back home. Whew. All right. I think that's all I got. This is not an easy topic, but for me that was always the core of the course, to talk to Jesus about everything, right? Start getting into the habit of telling him stuff, telling him how we really feel, even though it is not spiritual. That's why forget being spiritual. That's the worst thing we can do, is to try to be spiritual. It is the last thing that Jesus wants. Forget spiritual. Let's get real, right? Let's get real. How do you really feel? 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 Ah, now you're here and you can make your choice for me, he says, right? As a closing, I want to read lesson 267. My heart is beating in the peace of God. Surrounding me is all the life that God created in his love. It calls to me in every heartbeat and in every breath, in every action and in every thought. Peace fills my heart and floods my body with the purpose of forgiveness. Now my heart is healed, and all I need to save the world is given me. Each heartbeat brings me peace. Each breath infuses me with strength. I am a messenger of God, directed by his voice, sustained by him in love, and held forever quiet and at peace within his loving arms. Each heartbeat calls his name, and every one is answered by his voice, assuring me I am at home in him. Let me attend your answer, not my own. Father, my heart is beating in the peace the heart of love created. It is there and only there that I can be at home.